Hello and welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. I'm your host Jordan, and today I'm joined by Tim Demetrio, who is on the engineering team to make the Chevrolet Silverado EV ZR2 happen. This is again the race truck that Chevy just put in the Mint 400 race. I was out there with Isaiah, the other host on this podcast, to capture the race and see everything that happened and get a real full tour of the truck. Now, the full tour of the truck is over on Out of Spec Reviews if you want to watch me and Tim walk around this tri-motor beast and get a feel of everything they did to it, how they cobbled it together, and how it was jumping into the race. Now, that full tour was done before the race. Now the race has completed and they were successful in the race. So I'm here to talk to Tim about basically what it takes to jump into electric racing, especially from the aspect of an electric truck. What were the challenges? What were the hurdles? And what did they learn? So let's jump right in with Tim. Hi, Tim. Welcome to the podcast.
Howdy, Jordan. Thanks.
So as a quick background, I mean, this is a 1,100 horsepower, 1,200 pound-feet of torque, tri-motor beast, basically a Silverado EV work truck, WT4 that you guys had the development engineering on. And then you marry that with a tri-motor Hummer EV powertrain, which made big headlines because huge power, huge torque. And I mean, what do you get when you put two fun things together? I guess a race truck. There's a lot more that goes into it. We of course covered that in the video where we walked around over in Out of Spec Reviews, and I do encourage the audience to go check that out. But here, now that the race has concluded, I wanted to ask basically a few questions and really like what you guys have learned along the way. First of all, congrats on a successful race. At least when I left the premises, Chad had just finished, and it was actually a team of 3 that were in the truck, correct?
Yes.
So I wanted to ask really quick who that was, and why does it take 3 people for those who maybe aren't aware of how this race operates?
So typically in off-road racing, you have a driver and a co-driver. Some of these stock trucks that we have large extended cabs give us the opportunity to put somebody else in for experience, there to help if something goes wrong, and just another warm body to help change tires. And the backseat person is kind of there more for a joyride than actual tasks. But the co-pilot does have tasks, so the right seater has a GPS in front of them with markings, the course. They can call out to the driver any sudden turns that are coming up, any dangers that are marked. Kind of your second set of eyes for when it's either tough to see things coming up because of dust or terrain, etc.
Right. Yeah, this is for those who don't know, the Mint 400 is basically a 400-mile race in the desert. And it is, as an audience spectator, if you go, it's usually hard to see what's happening other than the start and basically the finish. Now, there are ways to go kind of along and see maybe the pit areas, which we fortunately did have access to. So we did get to see the team, fly by in the pits. And there's a couple different pit areas, but the race itself, 400 miles traditionally. Now with the EV side of things, that's actually a shorter version of the race, because while the Silverado EV has 400 plus miles of range, not while it's racing, and that's just normal. I mean, even the gas trucks you were running, the MPG is a bit down from their usual daily driving. So how many miles, I guess, did the truck actually do? And do you know, like, kind of the background of what the EV classes are? Because I did also see a Rivian out there. It was cool to see 2 electric trucks both running. And I was, like, as an EV fan, like, that's all I wanted to see. Like, it's so cool to see that competition. But notably, I think that you were not running in the same class as the Rivian, and you also beat the Rivian. So what can you talk about as far as the EV class of things?
Sure. So the Unlimited Race Series, that's the series that the Mint 400's in, is pretty progressive as far as off-road racing goes. They set up EV classes. There are 3 EV classes. We were in the EV Open class, which is EV production-based vehicle, with kind of no rule sets on what you can change, mainly because our vehicle was a concept and technically not in production. The Rivian was in the EV stock production class, so true stock production vehicle. We were not able to enter that class due to, again, the vehicle not being truly in production.
Right. And I know this, even though it was open class concept car, you still made a concept car with 98%
Yep.
GM production pieces, which is cool. I wish more concept cars were closer to production from that standpoint. Yeah, I was going to ask if the 98% was intentional, tied to a class, or is that just like how it happened?
That's how it happened. That's, the concept of how we wanted to do this truck, and kind of all of our ZR2s are, use as much production content as you can. Um, it, it really helps when you're pitching variants to get proposed to get built. It helps when you can point to a lot of parts bin sharing and utilizing as many components that GM already makes. Uh,
Right.
Keep the cost of development and um, manufacturing down.
Yeah, because you guys had, again, it was developed in what, 5 or 6 months, this truck?
Yeah, so we pitched it as an idea about 6 months ago. Started building it at 5 months ago, and only first saw dirt 2 weeks ago.
That's incredible. And it was fun for me to see it in the dirt.
Yeah,
I guess so. Yeah, the race happened. Was there any initial takeaways, like things you learned? Because you and I did that walk around the truck, which was a lot of fun, but it was somewhat anticipatory of like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, this actual truck is racing tomorrow. And I
yep,
was walking around it. I was looking inside it very carefully. Didn't want to touch anything because I was like, this truck's already tech inspected. It's ready to go. Then the race happened. And then what did you guys take away from that?
yeah. So the cool thing about the EV classes that are set up for this, it is a lap race. So the larger classes, some of the unlimited classes, will do the full 400. Our EV class did one lap, which in the course that we ran was 73 miles a lap. The ICE production trucks ran 3 laps of that, so they just ran over 225 miles, or just under 225. And the EV open class, or sorry, EV stock EV class that the Rivian was in ran 2 laps.
Mhm.
So our one lap, 73 miles, it was, we knew that was going to be well within the range of what our vehicle could do while you're pushing it in the desert as far as range goes. The first thing we found was that we way over predicted our usage during some of our early testing, and we finished the race with just over 40% state of charge left. Knowing that we only had to do one lap, we saw that towards the end of the lap we could push a lot harder than we were anticipating. Just watching the consumption real time during the race.
Okay, so you guys thought you would use more of the battery, basically.
Yep.
And what was the consumption for our efficiency nerds? I mean, do you have what you ran in this race?
I will have to go dig through the math, but I think that checks out to somewhere around zero point 0.6 miles per kilowatt
Hmm.
hour, somewhere in there. Um,
Yeah,
I
that was
know
close
we
to
did.
the
Oh, go ahead.
that was close to the prediction you said. I think when we did our walk around was
I
somewhere
knew I knew zero point 0.4 was what we needed to average,
okay, yeah.
and
So
we were
point
trending
six
above it.
is better. Yeah.
Yep. We did regen 17 miles of range during the course of the race, which was pretty cool to see that stat.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's something that none of the gas trucks were doing,
Yep.
unless they were, hybrid. But I didn't really see anyone hybrid or claiming that at least.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And I guess what other, regen efficiency, of course, but what other metrics and data did you gather, slash observe, slash what even was the team on the truck during the race monitoring the whole time?
So we have real-time health monitor of all the temperatures in the truck, all the vitals of the truck. We were monitoring that. Everything stayed nice and cool. The ambience for this temperature or for this race were very favorable. So you know, nothing got hot, nothing got even close to any of our thermal limits. So it's good to know, but also, we had favorable conditions for that as well. Um,
Right. So no overheating of the motors, the battery. I think that's a common thing that people worry about with racing. But I guess in this case, you're not necessarily flat out the whole time. This is
Correct.
not like a Formula One situation, which will be interesting whenever your partners over at Cadillac maybe get involved with that. But this was, I mean, Formula One's fun, but this was a blast watching things rip around in the desert. I guess was there any issues with debris? Did anything break that you didn't expect? Because this is, like you said, a heavy truck, but it is also running on a lot of suspension, a lot of tire, and softer ground than pure tarmac.
Yeah, so I may have been a little pessimistic in our last talk right before the race, just kind of anticipating what could go wrong. And I mean, thankfully, we had no issues, not even a flat tire. It was a very rough course this year, especially as the later ice trucks had to continue on laps. The course
Yeah,
got rougher and rougher, so it was one of the
really.
harsher mint courses that we've had in a long time. And the truck did great. No complaints. We got it back, brief check over, no issues, nothing broken, nothing. We barely touched the skid plates, so it was pretty cool to see how good a condition the truck was after all of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, the thing's running on 37s, and I saw two spares in the back,
Yep.
which of course, like you said, you didn't have to use. Now, seeing your ice trucks, the Colorado ZR2 and the Silverado ZR2, they had the spares mounted this way, whereas this truck
Yes.
had them flat. I was curious why that was.
That was just a choice we made based on packaging space. The horizontal, it's easier to do, keeps your CG a little lower. We do the
Yeah,
vertical on the ice trucks to kind of stagger around the fuel cell and where our fuel fill is.
got
So
it.
it's kind of a packaging choice.
Right. Yeah, this one doesn't really have that fuel fill
Yep.
challenge. Um, but speaking of fuel, I mean, like you said, you didn't use as much as you expected. You finished with just under half a battery. I mean, would you see doing multiple laps in the future? But also,
Yes.
how would you see like the proliferation of how many laps? Like, I guess, why did Rivian do 2 laps? Did they decide that? And I guess could you decide that? Like, what's the class limited to? Is that part of it?
Um, that was the rules that were given by Unlimited. I'm sure we can
Okay.
have conversations with them on what makes most sense,
Yeah.
um, because typically the slower the vehicle is, they don't want you running until midnight. So that's why they pick a set number of laps. But this truck is pretty quick. I think it has the potential to be just as quick as our Ace trucks, if not quicker.
Yeah.
Um, so I think there's more conversations to come on how many laps we do in future races. Especially the Mint's nice and easy. That the casino there has charging, both uh, Tesla and Electrify America charging stations right there. So you can that's what Rivian does. They pop out of the pits and go over, charge at the charger, and then come back in and continue on.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I was wondering how they would have the energy to do that because they're working with much smaller battery. Um, but yeah, I guess, do you think it'd be hard to see a future where ICE and EV are side by side in these types of races, but I guess that is technically
I,
possible. I mean, you are side by side.
we're side by side.
You're looking at different finish lines basically, but it'd be really interesting to see if this ever did make that proliferation, especially as EVs get more efficient and charging gets faster. I mean, you do have a lot of these ICE vehicles stopping at maybe one of the pits for fuel top offs. And
Yes.
as batteries get the approach to charge faster and faster, which fortunately, the 24 module pack charges like a beast on your vehicle, so it wouldn't be that hard to throw more juice back in that thing and get it out for another lap, especially if it took less maybe abuse than you thought.
Yeah.
Um, I, I guess was there any other data that you were monitoring that would be interesting? I mean, would you see if you saw like maybe a second lap anything that didn't overheat that might next time, or was everything like just keeping itself cool because you're not actually hitting 120 miles an hour?
Yeah, I mean everything seems to reach a steady state. We didn't we didn't see any temperatures they kind of plateaued within the first 15, 20 miles and then just kind of stay there. Um,
Yeah.
and it's pretty cool. I think running a second or third lap would be no issue. It's just, how long do we need to charge for and what state of charge do we want to target to minimize the time stopped.
It's interesting to see, and you guys and Rivian out there. I mean, what would you
Yes.
think on more automakers joining? Like,
I would,
should this?
I love
Do
it.
you challenge them?
Yes. No, it's awesome. And it proves things. I mean, I don't want to say it's ever easy to finish the race, but it is it's a tough race. It's tougher than what the vehicles were, it's tougher than what anything was designed around. So it's really a good proving ground. But when you have competition, you now get to push it. It's one thing to drive to a limit and say, I finished the race. But now that you have to go beat somebody, you got to push the trucks harder and drive faster. So it's always more
Right.
fun when there's more competition.
Right. It was fun to see you guys pull into the finish line, but also like, well, you're alone
Yep.
because I mean you finished, you won your class, but also there wasn't really much else out there in this class. But that would be a lot of fun to see a weirdly quiet uh group of electric trucks or off-road side by side, whatever, out there ripping in the dirt. Because then all you just hear is dirt and rocks hitting everything. Um,
Yeah.
what do you know what the top speed you hit out there was?
So I think the top speed, well, the first dry lake bed, we were taking it easy the first few miles just to gauge consumption.
Hmm.
And I think Chad only went about 85, maybe 90 on the first
Yep.
dry lake bed, which is a real long one. So after we got back and saw how much we left with, he's like, man, I should have put it down. I had we had the ability to go a lot faster there. So, just for the first time out, taking it easy. I don't think we set any land speed records, but there's definitely more to come.
Right. And yeah, I guess the suspension, we definitely looked at that a decent amount on our walk around video, and I guess it fared well. And do you see things that maybe from this race you hope to trickle into future production vehicles, or maybe more things you want to test next time? Because this was kind of a proof of concept. Like, okay, we got
Yes.
this truck out here, we completed it, but is there fun things that you might want to see, like try out next time?
Yeah, definitely. I think we have some damper tuning things we want to address. I think we have some improvements we can make to some of our low speed tuning. Um, Torque vectoring, we have a lot of things we can start turning on and trying to make the truck turn quicker. We got some feedback from Chad on some areas we can improve. So yeah, I have a whole list of stuff we can start tweaking and making better.
That's awesome. And yeah, like we said earlier, it's a brisk less than half a year to get this all set up and done, and then you raced. Now, from this conversation, I'm gathering you plan to do it again,
Yep.
and now you have a whole year. So,
So I think it won't
uh,
even be a year. I think we're targeting the Cal 300 race.
oh, cool.
So another little race in the Unlimited Series. That one's down in Barstow. Again, a similar length loop race, about
Hmm.
70-ish miles.
Yep.
So yeah, I think we're going to target that as the next outing for the truck with what improvements we can throw at it.
Nice. Well, that'd be a lot of fun to see that happen too. Because yeah, like people may not realize the Mint 400 is one of four races I think in this whole
Yep.
series. So even if you miss one, you can join in another one. But it
Yeah.
was it was fun to see it out in Vegas and see it in the parade down the strip. I mean this truck looks like a total beast on road and off road, and it would be cool to see ZR2 EV make it in production. I think there would for sure be a, even if it's a niche audience, still interested crowd. I mean, based on the trucks I see in Colorado, back where I'm from, uh, there would be people ready to put their money down on this thing, even if they only take it to the mall and park on the curb. But it still looks fun. But all the things you've developed with your ICE trucks, the ZR2 models like the Colorado and the Silverado, they've been racing for like 8 years in this race. Have you seen other similar like learnings from that have made it to like future production years? Is this
Oh
one of
yeah.
the benchmarks that like gives you a lot of learning?
Yeah. Totally. When we started the last gen Colorado racing, um, the entire time, one of the ones I point back to is the Baja mode development that's in the current Colorado. We developed that straight from what we did racing with Chad. He had
Yeah.
feedback on what he liked, what he didn't like, what we could do to make the truck faster, what we could do to make the truck handle better, um, what we needed from powertrain response. So I think a very similar thing could happen here with what we're learning with the Silverado EV concept truck.
Yeah, that makes sense. It'd be cool to see, not only future Silverado EV ZR2 situations, but maybe other models as well down the line. And then, of course, Chevy and GM, the GMC's Hummer notably is like that would look super cool out there. We saw some, old Humvees
Yeah.
participating, which was a blast to see. I mean, it's fun and funny to see what comes out of this race. And now
Yes.
we're seeing a world where people are even building one-off custom electric race vehicles. I hesitate to call them cars sometimes because they're so out there, but it is cool to see the average, tinkerer, gearhead, as you might say, now looking at and embracing or realizing the capability with EVs, even building custom ones. I mean, even you guys showing that, hey, you can just throw another powertrain in a different truck if you want. We're starting to see that with, different types of crate e-motors and stuff. It'd be really cool to see, maybe someone else take a Silverado EV powertrain or a Hummer EV powertrain, throw it in something crazy, something hand built. And this is like one of those races where you really could. Um,
Yeah,
so
that that's the really cool thing about off-road racing is there's so many classes. There's so much. The bar for entry is so low. I mean, it's not like
yeah.
some of the off-road race series where you have to get licenses and race for so long before you can step up and join the next class. I mean, the off-road race series, if you want to stick a 14-year-old in a 1,000 horsepower trophy truck, go for it.
Yeah,
um,
it's hilarious to think of and to watch it. If you did implement charging stops, I guess there's, like you said, there are chargers out there, but I mean, some of these other races may not have infrastructure right on site. Like, do you see maybe having your own charging solutions? And on that note, you know, how much would you have to take into account battery preconditioning, like throughout the lap, worrying about what energy that might use? Probably not a ton, but if the truck is running on a really hot day, maybe it has to work to keep the temperatures down instead of up.
yeah. So, excuse me. Here at GM, we got the Hydrotech team that I think is a great resource that we can start tapping into if any of these races don't have a convenient charge location. They have hydrogen fuel cell charging stations that we can roll a trailer out to anywhere in the desert and charge the truck up. That's a pretty cool thing to have in our back pocket. As far as preconditioning goes, the demand on the truck, while high, I think it seems to put, for at least from the data we saw this time, it puts the res in a nice spot where it's just about at its ideal temperature for fast charging. So it's nice and warm, but not too hot. So I
Right.
think,
And with that, you could even theorize, if you do work in a charging stop, that's a place where the truck is sitting, cooling. So you could
yep,
even be like, well, we could run motors hotter. We could do various things to and plan for a calibrated, like, here's a stop to chill everything.
yeah,
like
totally,
super chilling, like what Tesla does that with some of their cars with the track mode. But it was a bummer to see no Cybertrucks running out there with you guys. And Ford, of course, has done stuff with the Pikes Peak climb, and it's cool to see, like we said in the walk around video, it's cool to see other companies proliferating, just EVs in general proliferating into what have always pretty much been gas led races. And I don't see a reality where the gas part dies. I mean, I think that's what
yeah,
some people are. They're reacting, flinching because they're like, no, don't take away our gas racing. But when you look at the grand scheme of how many vehicles are on the road, the climate issue, the clean air issue is not from the tiny number of race cars. It's all the passenger cars. And
yeah,
so it's good to see GM building so many different EV variants. I'm actually recording this from a hotel room, about to go drive some more GM EVs this week. That passenger cars, take some of the ice off of the streets and put the ice in the racing, and I love to see that. But it is cool to see it side by side, and there's even people playing around with range extended EVs in case you didn't have some sort of charging. Like, there's so many ways to incorporate electrification, the magic of instant torque, instant, like you guys were working with a tri-motor system, so you had the traction control benefits of having two instantly adjustable rear motors. Did you learn anything from the traction control setup that you had for this race?
yeah. So one thing we learned right now we have everything all the way off. I think one of the things we learned is there's definitely a benefit to torque vectoring. Um, while most drivers think they're better than traction control and stability control, you don't have three gas pedals and you don't have four brake pedals. So there are things that we can do with the control system to manipulate the truck and really make it do some things that you normally wouldn't be able to do.
Right. Makes sense. It's magic, and it's unique to some of the just general normal four-wheel drive systems we see out there in the dirt, and it makes a difference because it is a low mu surface, very slippery
Yes. Yes.
in many cases, and it's fun to see how that can handle it. So yeah, I mean, anything else you want to share with the audience? Anything I forgot to ask? Because this is just a whole new concept to a lot of us.
No, I mean it was truly a blast. It couldn't have went better for us with the EV concept truck than that weekend did. It was truly fun, and look forward to doing it more and doing it farther each time, and keep pushing the learnings on what we can do.
Yeah, it'll be a blast to watch you guys continue to develop more things, more tech, more trickle down tech. Because that's magic of racing is you have this team to figure out stuff without some of the limits, and then you figure out what things can we take and put that into the production cars, which have more limits because of safety,
Yep.
packaging, cost, etc. And it's so much fun as a consumer, as a journalist, as someone watching the industry to see this all happen in real time. So can't wait to see you guys at more races, and can't wait to see that truck and maybe other trucks similar having a blast. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the time.